OC World is made possible by the generous contributions of the Marisla Foundation, the Keith and Judy Swain Family Foundation, Orange County Community Foundation, the Cordoba Corporation, and viewers like you. Thank you. Hello, and welcome to OC World. I'm your host, Joone Kim-Lopez. It's hard to imagine Orange County in the past, where orange groves covered what is now today the third largest county in California and sixth largest in the country in population. Major universities, hospitals, business, and high-tech companies have invested here to build a thriving economy and resilient communities. To tell us how they're doing that through innovation are our guests today, Jeff Ball, CEO of Orange County Business Council, and Mark Percy, CEO of CEO Leadership Alliance Orange County. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, as you know, our viewers range from Santa Barbara to San Diego. So not everyone is aware what's going on in Orange County. So if we were to do a 30-second sort of that elevator pitch of both of your organization, maybe that would be where we start today. So why don't we go with you first, Mark?
Sure, Joone. Thanks again for having us. The CEO Leadership Alliance started about 5 years ago, and it really came out of the work of Doug Wilson, Dick Auchnauer, our co-founders. And the idea was that the CEOs needed to come together to be purposeful in the community. And so it took a while to get to the mission of the organization, but it really focused then on a tech talent hub. And that's really what the members have been focused on. These are some of the largest employers in the area. But also young, innovative companies. It's kind of a mixture. And there's 55 CEOs, and they really are the ones that are the heroes. They're taking the leadership in investing in the community and the talent in the community. So it's not just closing the skills gap, but it's also the opportunity gap that exists for young people in Orange County.
In this process. All right. Now, Jeff, Orange County Business Council, maybe share with our viewers a little bit about the council and how many of those 55 CEOs are members of OCBC?
We actually have quite a bit of crossover, Joone. OCBC's history actually goes back over 100 years to the original Orange County Chamber of Commerce. There were a couple of organizations that collectively came together about 30 years ago. And we are an organization that is primarily focused on economic development for Orange County. We want to achieve that economic development while maintaining the high quality of life that we all enjoy here. We have over 300 investors as part of our base, substantial crossover with theirs. And both organizations are focused on certain aspects that really complement each other. And Mark and I have been working together on a number of different initiatives. As we look at economic development and wanting to achieve that while maintaining our high quality of life, there's really three areas that we focus on in which we have established clear initiatives. One is workforce, not only the development of workforce, but also our employers' ability to retain that workforce. The second is housing. The shortage of housing here in Orange County is our number one crisis. And obviously, as we look to develop and retain that workforce, they all need a place to live. And so housing is the second key initiative that we're focused on. And the third is infrastructure. Infrastructure, everything from transportation to energy to water, as we look to build this economy, as we look to provide expansion opportunities for our existing businesses and recruit new ones, we need to make sure that we have a reliable and efficient infrastructure to be able to meet those needs.
So let me just back up, though, because you talked about policy and alignment, because all the things that you're talking about are sort of the result of that origin. But when you talk about policy and alignment, from what I could gather on being on the CLA website, it seems to me your vision is to create sort of this epicenter of high-tech innovation companies where it's high-paying jobs, where you get the talent and the money invested into Orange County, which is a very big vision. And so in terms of alignment, there are 34 cities in Orange County. You deal with all of them, plus all your members who are the businesses from large business, medium, small. Would they all agree that that's the future of Orange County?
Well, when we're talking about the tech aspect of growth, that's just one aspect of our business community and the growth that we anticipate. And CLA has done an excellent job focusing in on the fact that Orange County needs to be able to provide that clear pathway for those businesses to be able to originate here and to succeed here. That is just one part of our overall mission, which is the overall economy of the county. It's just one aspect. So, yes, I think we can all get behind the idea of needing economic growth and development and wanting to do it in a way that retains the high quality of life that we enjoy. CLA is focused on a very important component of that, which is around a lot of the tech development. And that is absolutely going to be a key part of our future growth in Orange County, and I think part of what we have an opportunity to really distinguish with the county. In our role, we're also taking on a lot of the advocacy. And when we talk about advocacy, it's really more education than lobbying. And that is making sure that our elected officials, whether it's in DC, Sacramento, or Santa Ana, really understand the important aspects of business, what these opportunities are in Orange County, so that we can create that clear pathway for business, so that organizations such as the ones that support CLA really have that opportunity to succeed.
So do you work directly with the cities or do you work through
Yeah,
OCBC?
it's good to sort of back up, and we did a lot of work with McKinsey to try to understand what was going on in Orange County. What we were doing is we had low unemployment, but we were creating a lot of jobs that paid less than 60,000, sometimes less than 40,000. And those were the jobs we were creating. The innovation jobs that were higher paying were not actually growing that much in Orange County over the last decade. We look at the problem as a pipeline, a talent pipeline. And so you really have to look at each level. And there were other problems too. Not only was there a talent gap in Orange County, especially for the highest growth areas and ones that paid the most, but there was also a disconnection between the population of Orange County and who took those jobs. So, you had women that are obviously 51% of the population, but in tech jobs, 23%, and tech adjacent, 37%. For Black and Hispanics, it was even worse. It was 3% tech jobs and 16% respectively for Hispanics, whereas as we know it's 5% and 37% for the population. So we weren't getting the talent into the jobs that paid more. We were losing our young people. And again, this is a complex issue.
Right.
It's really the intersection of the world of education and business. And unfortunately, we have a situation in this country, and this is not just Orange County, this is across the country, where the interface and the intermediary ecosystem between those two worlds has not really been developed. It's immature. And so it takes a lot of time. It takes working collaboratively with partnerships. And we see this as whether it's Jeff or whether it's others, we want everyone at the table. We want everyone to come together because it's going to take all of us. We can do a very good piece of work for a subpopulation with CLA, but that's not going to solve the problem. It's not going to scale things the way we need to. We've got thousands of kids coming out of high school, community college, and universities. And how many of those have experiences with companies? How many have even set foot in a company while they've gone to school? That's the correction. We have to have our young people with greater exposure to what the workplace looks like today and what's the pathway to those higher paying jobs so they can stay in Orange County. Most want to stay in Orange County.
Well, who wouldn't? Orange County is beautiful, but Jeff, you would know this better than anybody, is that the cost of living is so high. We're losing workers left and right, whether it's high tech, because they could go somewhere else, make the same amount of salary and not have the cost of living and the price of homes in Orange County. So what kind of trends are you seeing and how bad is that?
Well, we see the same numbers that Mark referenced earlier, and every year we put out our community indicators report, which gives you a full overview of the demographics, the economic contributors, the education, and try to bring all of that stuff together. A couple of key facts. First of all, we have an aging population in Orange County. We also have a declining population in Orange County. So when we think about economic growth and development, we really need to be able to retain the talent that we develop here and have it engaged in our workforce. Yes, there are challenges around the cost of living, particularly with housing. As I pointed out earlier, that's our number one crisis. So at the Business Council, while we're also engaged in workforce and partnering with organizations like CLA and continuing to develop, we're also looking at what it takes to retain a workforce, the complexity of employment law in California, particularly coming out of the pandemic. I have yet to meet someone who got into business to become a specialist in employment law, right? It's a necessary evil that they have to deal with. So how can we bring the appropriate resources to our businesses to help them to be successful in retention of employees? And then also, what can we do to help on the housing issue, which is really a supply issue? There have been many laws that have been passed over the last several years attempting to address the shortage of housing supply in California. None of them have worked. And even as we try to force pathways to get permitting done, the actual completion of construction is far behind even other parts of the country. It's a cost issue. So again, we're back to how we clear this pathway. How can we create a pathway so that our builders can be able to build here efficiently and effectively, and they know exactly what product needs to be built? We need to create that path so that they have the opportunity to build. So it's not just permitting, it's also many of the restrictions that come into the actual development of the housing that is holding us back, not just in Orange County, but throughout California. So those are areas that we focus on from an advocacy standpoint to be able to create this clear path for the builders.
I guess the question is, many are advocating on that front, but we're not really seeing the needle move. We're not seeing things build faster. We're not seeing an improvement in the housing crisis. So we're doing a lot of talking and advocacy at all sides, but very little movement. So with the 55 CEOs, I mean, you combine all of them, how many billions of dollars? I mean, these are forward-thinking visionaries. Are these CEOs actually going to invest money as well as time and energy into helping move some of these policies issues, basically politicking? Are they willing to jump into that arena to help Orange County?
You know, it's a huge issue, and it comes up a lot with our membership. We really admire what the Business Council is doing in this regard. Remember that to buy a house, it's two sides. It's the cost of the house, but it's also the salary that you have, the income. And so what we feel like we are addressing, because incomes are not increasing enough in Orange County. That's the real problem. And there's not a pathway to even Cal State Fullerton. 80% of their graduates stay in the area, but oftentimes, Fran will admit that oftentimes they end up taking jobs that they don't really require the degree they just earned. You know, so they don't have enough opportunities or social capital to get into those higher paying jobs. So again, you can't forget in the housing equation, you have to drive the salaries up also. But in terms of the housing, that's an issue that we look forward to supporting the Business Council, and the jury's still out. We're still getting our kind of sea legs in terms of the ecosystem, developing the ecosystem for talent development in Orange County. It's a huge undertaking and a heavy lift, but probably entry-level housing is probably the next issue that we want to really work together on.
How do you actually raise the salaries of these positions? And a lot of these high-tech jobs, with AI, people actually think AIs will eliminate jobs, get the machines taken over. So how do you actually increase salaries in these areas that you talk about? I mean, from a business perspective as well as CLA's perspective.
So it's an economic. Don't you take that one.
It's a big.
No, and it all drives down into the economics of the region and the types of opportunities that we're able to provide here that are on all different areas of the spectrum. So, CLA is doing a great job working on the development of the workforce. We're also focused on retention and housing and infrastructure, which is all part of that equation. From a housing and cost standpoint, a lot of it is supply. So as Mark appropriately said, there's two sides to the equation, right? You have the income side, and then you have the actual cost side. And it's what we measure very carefully as an affordability index. households in Orange County spend a much higher percentage of their income on housing in compared to other parts of the state. And so again, it boils back to this supply issue and making sure that we have adequate supply. Many years ago, under Governor Reagan, California enacted the Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, we call it CEQA. CEQA has been abused in recent years where it obstructs the ability to develop. It increases the cost to develop. Just in the last 3 years, California has added over $100,000 per door to the cost of building a home. Well, to some, 100,000 is that affordability point, and that's just the increased regulatory cost over the last 3 years. You can buy a piece of land and build a home in Texas for less than what just the regulatory costs are here in California. So that's a big issue. When your question centers down to the affordability, and the reason why it has become so unaffordable is the limited supply, which is limited by the abuse of these actions. So part of our work from an advocacy standpoint is to help to educate the community, to help to educate our elected representatives on how the CEQA needs to be reformed so that, again, we can create this pathway that allows our builders to build the supply that the market is asking for.
And I want to come back a little bit, though, to CLA, because that's not your biggest platform right now, to reform CEQA. You're about driving innovation.
But it's very important what Jeff is saying, because that is a huge issue. I would like to address your question in terms of the skills, that are needed in the workplace today. We have a new white paper by McKinsey that really summarizes some of the KSAs, the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are needed, and lists for Orange County the top 15. They're grouped in areas like data management, cybersecurity, software development, and they break down the skills. What we're trying to do now is we have a better understanding of what the skills are that are needed for those higher paying jobs. What we need to do is map that back into the education system and make sure that our students, as they come through, are picking up those critical skills. Everyone thinks of technology in terms of data systems and data architecture and very high skilled areas. But remember, if you have a humanities degree, you can increase your salary $20,000, $25,000 a year just by taking a certification in data analytics.
Is that true?
It's true. So, we have to, there's 11 universities that have tech credentials in Orange County. And what we have to do is make sure that that becomes part of the education system in community colleges, even the universities. Cal State Fullerton's doing a good job of integrating this. So you're bumping those salaries up by adding and stacking certifications. That is exactly what's demanded in the workplace for those higher paying jobs. Because the jobs in Orange County, there are so many open jobs in these areas that have the highest paying jobs, so the highest growth. Sometimes only 50%, sometimes even 25% of the talent is going to come from Orange County as of right now.
So let me get this straight. So the market is there in Orange County right now for those high paying jobs. We just don't have the workforce to fill those jobs. We're not trying to bring companies into it to create those positions.
No, that's not a strategy that's going to work in Orange County because of the high cost. Arizona can have that kind of economic development strategy. That's not how we're going to grow. We have to have our young people have the skills. Talent can be the differentiator. In a high cost area where you have taxation, you've got regulations, let's face it, kind of business unfriendly in California right now. Talent is the differentiator that can keep companies here. We have to retain the companies that we have. And then instead of, if they've got an office in Austin and Nashville and Chicago, instead of always saying, well, I can't expand in Orange County, I've got to expand into Austin, what we have to do is have the CEOs look at Orange County and say, no, I want my skill positions here in Orange County, my R&D, my marketing, and et cetera, et cetera. So really, you want to create a situation where you have such a strong talent pool that it's a compelling reason for companies to stay instead of leaving.
Now you did say that you're very part of what Mark is working on, but it's just one of the lanes that OCBC runs, because when you look at Orange County, 42% of all startup business, small business, immigrant population. You talk about that 60%, I think you cited this on your website, 60% of the jobs are on the low paying side. So you have members that still need that 60% filled, and you still have members that are about small business. Do they support this, or is it a separate issue? How does that meld together when you run the council?
We look at the issue in a very similar way to what Mark described, but maybe a little more encompassing, from the standpoint that we need to be able to grow our economy here in all different aspects of the job skills. And I look at it as two problems. We think of it as a supply and demand issue. The demand for the jobs is there. The issue is the supply. And there are two factors, I believe, which are limiting the supply side and creating this issue for our businesses. One is the cost of living. And so if I'm a young professional with a family, I might choose to locate elsewhere. And in a world of post-pandemic technology, if I can work from a remote platform somewhere else, then I don't need to live in Orange County. And maybe I will choose to live somewhere else that has a lower cost of living so that less of my income is having to go to housing. I'm on the board of a data management company in the Midwest, and we are now finding that oftentimes we're recruiting outside of our area to get the talent that we need. Orange County has a similar issue in that we need to be able to have the adequate jobs here at all levels of skills that people can find available and at a cost of living that they can afford, which again gets back to my quality of life. The second issue involving supply is on the education side, and Mark touched on this. But a lot of times as we approach education, it's kind of this four-year college or nothing type of an attitude. We have a large demand for employees in Orange County that require skill sets that don't necessarily require a four-year degree. We have a community college system which has been experiencing declining enrollment, and which I would say is one of our most underutilized assets in California. So what we're working on is a model which will help take a look at the demand from the employer side, which is all different levels of skills. The fact that we want our young people to see that there is a clear career path of opportunity in Orange County, also people that need to be reskilled, that there is this opportunity for jobs, and how we can incorporate that with the community college model to create a way that business and education can come together to meet all different aspects of that cycle. What they're focused on with the very high end and the tech is extremely important, and we support it, and we love what they're doing, but we're also looking at the middle level and the lower level because we recognize that for our businesses to succeed and grow here, we need to be able to fulfill those areas as well. We have some wonderful nonprofits doing great work in the unskilled, lower skilled area. We're focused more in that middle aspect of the talent pool that we need here in Orange County and making sure that they can grow here and feel as though it's affordable while they enjoy the quality of life.
So Mark, do you then work with these community colleges and colleges in Orange County?
What Jeff is referring to is the skills-based hiring, and there you switch to the employer side because you have traditional hiring practices that really go back to a more plentiful talent supply pool. And the pool has been getting tighter and tighter. The skills gap has been growing in America and in Orange County. So we've had conversations with the companies about, you have to come off the BA and 3 to 5 years experience. That's not going to work. And you can't keep fishing in other people's ponds and thinking that you're going to get all your talent from outside the region. You have to grow your talent pipeline. So the companies, the good news, and I'm encouraged, the companies have come around to understand this. And they're investing more and more in the talent pipeline, some at high school, some at community college, some at the university level. But all are doing, really all of our members are really thinking earlier in the process. And you have to have these discussions that it's okay to bring in, to look at your jobs and kind of deconstruct them and look around the skills that are really needed. So the VA was really used as a screen, when there was plentiful talent. Now we're in a situation where they have to look at each job and understand, what are the skills that are actually essential? Take the BA requirement out, and then what are the pathways? What are the programs I can work with to bring those with certain skills in post-secondary, but maybe we can upskill, within the company. So that's the conversation that's going on, and that's why you need the education system to think differently, and you have to have the employers beginning to think differently. And so they're kind of meeting in the middle now, and it's a very exciting time actually for what's happening in talent development. And I want to emphasize again, this is a national issue. This is a huge national issue. We're in touch with 25 other regions that have CEO groups working on talent development around the country. And we're having discussions with the federal government and with the states. And this is something everyone is trying to solve.
Well, it's very exciting what both of you are working on. I'm eager to see what results and what additional great work comes out of this effort. So thank you for joining us today. And thank you to our viewers. Issues such as jobs, housing, infrastructure, all these policies, it is complex and can seem complicated. And when we talk about innovation in Orange County, it's not just about science, it's not just about high tech, but it's about the way that we think, how we approach problems, how we come up with solutions, getting a lot of diverse voices together to make progress. So until next time, stay safe and be well.